In the past vignettes, we had seen that God had made it very easy for us to discover Him, to find Him. And when Christ came to earth, we also found out that He made it very easy for us to go to heaven or to save our souls. And so now Christ establishes or instituted His church here on earth, and He made it a point for us to find it very easily. He doesn't want us to exert too much effort in finding His church, and so He made His church visible. To find the true church that Christ established needs a lot of sacrifice from us, and it is in proportion to the sacrifice that we exert in trying to look for that church shall we find it. If we exert great sacrifices, then we shall find it. If we exert only a little sacrifice, we will hardly find it. Two of the signs, visible signs of the true church of Christ, had been expressed in two parables, the parable of the precious pearl and the parable of the great treasure. Now, for all practical purposes, a pearl is visible and can easily be seen, and a treasure too is visible and can very easily be seen. Except the hitch is this, that though the pearl and the treasure are visible, it cannot be discovered or found unless one is seeking for the precious pearl. Let us look at the parable of the precious pearl and the treasure and try to look at the deeper interpretation of those parables. As you know very well, the parable goes this way, that there was a merchant looking for precious pearl or treasures, and when they found the precious pearl, they sold everything in order to buy or purchase the precious pearl. Now let us look at the other side of the interpretation. The merchant here represents Jesus Christ. Sort of Jesus Christ came down into the world, and in the world He was looking for a precious pearl. And that precious pearl is His church. And so it seems that Christ, when He came down to earth, gave up everything, like the merchant, gave up everything in order to purchase this church for His own. And that, of course, is what we call the Catholic Church. So Christ came down to earth to call a people or to call out His church from the world. Now, when Christ came to earth, remember that the field is not the church. The church is the precious pearl. The field is the world. The object of His search, the search of Christ, is the pearl and not the world. And so even here you can see that Christ came to the world not for the world, but to call unto Him out of the world a church. We are discussing here the parables about the kingdom of God, and the kingdom of God is the Catholic Church. And the parables are supposed to be the external signs by which we can recognize the church. We have seen the first two, the parable of the precious pearl and the treasure. Now let us go to the next two parables, which is the parable of the leaven and the mustard seed. We know very well that yeast is supposed to affect the whole dough, and it is supposed to cause the expansion of the dough. So the same thing with the mustard seed. It's supposed to be a very small seed, and then it simply grows into the biggest tree of all. Now the point here is that as the leaven affects the dough, so the tree also affects the soil. Now what do I mean? You see, the mustard tree, when it begins to grow, absorbs and assimilates the soil and all minerals and dead things from the soil. And as the mustard seed assimilates all of this, it grows. And this precisely is what happens with the Catholic Church, in that it absorbs all sinners. It absorbs all dead things around, assimilating it, making it a part of the tree which is alive, and in the process, the mustard seed grows. And that is what precisely the Catholic Church is supposed to do. It is supposed to assimilate and absorb all sinners and make herself grow. Now that is the parable of the mustard seed. And the same thing goes with the leaven of the dough, in the sense that the whole dough is affected, meaning to say, the Catholic Church is supposed to affect and influence all her environment. And so here we see the signs of the Catholic Church. At first, it is a precious pearl and a treasure. If today so many Catholics are leaving the Catholic Church, shouldn't we ask the question that are they finding the Catholic Church as a treasure or a precious pearl? If they are leaving the church, it means it is not very precious for them. It is not a great prized pearl. So the same thing, we ask the question, like the parable of the leaven, is the Catholic Church affecting her environment? Is the Catholic Church making our politicians honest? Is she removing graft and corruption from all around? Are they influencing the children away from drugs? And we can see that the Catholic Church seemingly is unable to do these things. It is not affecting the environment. And if we ask the question, is the Catholic Church absorbing sinners, or is she producing sinners instead? Is she becoming a giant, strong tree, or is he withering down? Those are questions we should ask, because if the answer to all these questions is no, 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 then the Catholic Church is not around. As a mustard seed, the Catholic Church is able to absorb every good thing you can find in the world, aside from absorbing the souls of sinners. A very good example of this is the fact that the Catholic Church was able to absorb the philosophy of Aristotle into herself. She absorbed the philosophy and made the Catholic faith more credible. Now, no religion or even Christian sect could ever absorb the philosophy of Aristotle, because if they ever tried to absorb that philosophy, they would self-destruct. But then the philosophy of Aristotle, which is a pagan philosophy, was able to enhance the Catholic Church. That is what I mean by assimilation or absorption. Like the leaven that works very quietly into the dough, or like the mustard seed that grows quietly and slowly into a tree, the Catholic Church also quite moves slowly into the history of man. Of course, when the Catholic Church entered the history of man, it completely changed human history. It was a dream. Everybody looked at the Catholic Church and considered her as a dream, the life that all men should live, except it remained a dream. Up to now, the conversion of the world is a dream. The practice of the Catholic faith by countries and by nations is still a dream. It is not yet a reality. But even if it was a dream, it has affected the whole world more than any waking philosophy in this world. So the Catholic Church entered the history of man quietly, in exactly the same way as her Lord and Master did it. He was born quietly and he was born secretly into the world. And it is being this secret entrance into the world that makes even the Catholic Church, as its beginning, also enter into the history of man quietly, without a bang. And it is only this silent and secret entry that made her so effective. The role of the Catholic Church is to leaven and to grow like a giant mustard seed. But in the last 3 centuries, this growth has been interrupted. It has been retarded, and even now, it has been reversed. There was a time when Europe was Catholic and it was the most vibrant century of the Catholic Church. Now, you can't hardly hear the Catholic voice in Europe. The Church has not been able to leaven the whole world, not even half of it. Is this a sign that God is powerless? No. It shows that God's will is being fulfilled, that God's plan and prophecy is being fulfilled, where Christ says, "Many are called, but few are chosen." God bless you.